We can. We honestly can't do
Just get in my face, I calmed down.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Thursday, October 19th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Introduction to board members. To my left is Jerry Graybill, myself, Michael LaRue, Phil Roy, and Les Bodwell. Oh, I got the saggy chair now. Then we have Irish Griffith, the Code Enforcement Officer, Terry Wilson, the Assistant to Coding and Planning, and Henna Watson from SMPDC. First is the public hearing, conditional use and site plan review, Wentworth Solar, R62, Lot 5-1, Zone R3.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Oliva. I'm with Civil Consultants here representing the applicants for this proposed project to create a 1 megawatt solar array on a parcel off of Wentworth Road. This parcel will have 2 uses on it. Currently, there's an old historic gravel pit that's been in operation for over 50, 60 years on the property. The proposed site will continue to have the gravel. Sorry about that, but anyways, we'll continue to have the gravel pit on there. Operation. We are permitting that because this gravel pit never had a permit. That will follow all the standard MDEP rules for projects that have intent with a notice to intent to comply with the standards. And then the main project here is the 1 megawatt solar array to be constructed back here on the remnants of that old gravel pit. We had a site walk last week with the planning board and the public to review this area, walk the site, take a look at it. As folks may remember, a majority of this area is already treed and scrubbed area for the old gravel pit. So the perfect use for this proposed solar array. You cannot see it from Wentworth Road. You cannot see it unless you come down into the access onto the private property to see that. Basically, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple project. Glad to take some public comments if there are any.
Okay, thank you. If anyone wants to come up and make a comment, just state your name and address. Yeah, just come right up to the podium.
Good evening. John Vaughn, 405 Pine Hill Road.
Could you spell your last name, sir?
V-A-U-G-H-N.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm interested property owner near the site. I'm quite impressed with the amount of work that you guys do regarding one plan, and I've had a chance to see all the work that you've been doing over the last few months regarding this plan and others. So with that, I have a note of appreciation for what land ordinances are for and the work that you do to keep Berwick moving forward. I recognize there can be a lot of reasons when you have a complex process like this to get all the bases covered the first time around. And I believe the merits of the solar component of the project are worthwhile and definitely in keeping with Berwick's where tradition meets tomorrow motto. My comments are more intended to raise questions about the historical extraction process, not previously regulated. I don't know anything about the particulars that aren't published in minutes or the plans that are on file on the web, but I had some observations that I wanted to share. I was unable to locate any language and narratives provided by the applicant that includes certain components of the narrative under section 9.8F1. They include hours of planned mineral extraction operations And what was in the memo can arguably describe as not fully complete regarding the nature of the business. The reason why I say that is in reviewing the plan documents and minutes of meetings that have occurred, I have identified statements about the operation not being a commercial operation, but under the land use codes, it must have a conditional use permit because they extract more than 50 cubic yards in a 12-month period. Categorization, in addition, statements documented in the plans or minutes of prior meetings about operations not being a commercial operation. So from a general public or a citizen standpoint, if it's not a commercial operation, I think we would have benefited if the application covered what it exactly is. It's been described as a historical extraction site, not subject to prior, I think it's in the 50s. But I am aware that if during that time it was in dormant for a certain period, it might have other requirements that need to be addressed before a conditional use permit can be approved. I also identified various statements about potential expansion of the extraction operations, wherein one narrative includes a claim that owners completed an MDEP intent to comply application. But the minutes from that meeting indicates that the applicant is working with the DEP with an intent to comply through the mining division for expansion. So that kind of ambiguity or conflict or is something that would cause me to have further questions. In a later meeting, when the question was posed by a board member about a possible expansion, the answer given was no. Finally, meeting notes from the June 1 meeting indicate the applicant may add a crushing process later, but in the September, June 21st meeting, it was acknowledged that processing and portable crushers are already in use. So there's a section on the application where the business should be described, and I'm not sure it was accurate based upon what's transpiring in other conversations or during meetings that aren't part of the plan filing. And with the use of processing and portable crushers, there is a section where the applicant might be obligated to document potential for visual and audio mitigation under Section 9.8 I1D, special features. That part of the plan was written as not applicable, or none of those activities were happening. Includes truck loading, obviously some things that might require audio or visual mitigation. So as I said, the merits of the solar component of the project are worthwhile. And I believe there are new land use guidelines for solar farms on the November ballot, which you all have already voted on and recommended that voters apply. So one of the questions I might have is, if it passes, what are the material components that might be different than the existing regulations might apply, whether it's voluntary or otherwise. And I think that's pretty much the questions that I had at this time. Your service to the town is greatly appreciated, and so too am I thankful for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Evening. Cheryl Wentworth in a butter. I've lived there, right beside that property for 48 years. The Wentworths, my last name is Wentworth, so I was married to Timothy Wentworth. And my concern, I don't have a problem with solar. My concern is that gravel pit. It was my understanding that if you bought a piece of, or inherited a piece of property, that you'd have to get permits if you were going to open a, or enlarge a gravel pit. My mother-in-law passed away in 2017, and the land was all divided. She died in 2015, I'm sorry, and the land was all divided in May of 2017, which would mean that that land would be a new piece of property. I wouldn't think it would still be grandfathered if it's under new ownership, but maybe it is. I think it was like in 2020 was when they cut all those trees down and expanded and made that huge, what you're seeing today, all those piles of dirt and the constant ongoing activity. It was huge, and it's right behind my house. So now, because of that huge area, it's an incredible void. So sometimes windy, I feel like freight trains are coming. I can hear the trains. I can hear everything. I can hear the shooting range a lot better too, unfortunately. But my concern is, if that's a new piece of property, how can it be grandfathered? It's all been divided. So the person that's my sister-in-law who is applying for it, she's basically a new owner of the property, right? No. And actually, my attorney said that she's supposed to get new permits. So, but that's my big concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have quite a bit of documentation if you need it, since I live right there. Pictures.
Ma'am, what's your address? We didn't get that.
246 Randall Road, not Grove.
246 Randall. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you can come up.
I apologize. So in regards to the two projects or proposed uses on the property, I think there's a staff opinion somewhere that I read that they can proceed separately. And I don't have any objection at all to the solar project going forward for the merits that I've already been in support of. But I think nothing could be hurt by delaying, if in fact we need to clarify what has been happening over the last 50 years, what is happening now, given that there's been different opinions expressed at different times through this process. There's no harm in waiting to hold that one up.
Okay, thank you.
Cheryl Wentworth again. You said earlier that they're working with DEP.
Join the meeting.
Sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear your last.
They're working with DEP. Is DEP going to come out and take a look at that piece of property? Is that what you're saying?
That'll get answered after the public comment. You'll get filled in on all of that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, seeing no more people come up, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I will second that motion.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right, moving along is the first public comment. This is open up to non-agenda items. All right, moving on. Approval of minutes. We actually don't have a quorum to vote on any of these three, so we will be moving them to next meeting. Hopefully we have some more people that can make the quorums. All right, so in old business, we have conditional use and site plan review, Wentworth Solar, R62, Lot 5-1, Zone R3.
Good evening, Jeff Oliva, again, civil consultant here representing the applicants for that. I guess what I'd like to do is kind of start and address some of the public comments, working for that. And we'll go right into the gravel pit portion of it. This has been a gravel pit for many, many years. You're right, there was a splitting up of the lots of Wentworth a couple years ago. The use continues. The use goes with the piece of property and not the property owner. That has continued to operate. What we're looking to do with our plan here now is, knowing that there has been gravel pit operations here for a long time, is to bring it into compliance with the current regulations. The gravel pit, as it currently stands, if we discount the area that has been reclaimed over the years in the back, where the solar array is going to go, that is not at an area that currently requires DEP approval because it's under the acreage limit. We know moving forward eventually that this will go through and get larger than what the acreage limit is for DEP. So we're going to submit the notice of intent to comply, which indicates that we are going to do several things. Make sure that the gravel pit remains internally drained, that after there is the open pit area is, you can only have 5 acres of open pit area open at once before you have to start reclaiming and loaming and seeding and planting the areas that you're done with. And then you also have to make sure that you maintain a separation from the groundwater elevation. So with those standards, with the operation as it proceeds in the future, those will be meeting those DEP requirements for a gravel pit. In the application package that we submitted, we have 2 plans that are called GP1 and GP2. Those include the standard notes for the town and the DEP with respect to what is required for sediment control, hours of operation, items like that for the gravel pit, and those are included in the package. And those would be the plans that are reviewed and hopefully eventually approved by the town of Berwick. But they're also the same plans that will go to the DEP with the notice of intent to comply. So we feel that we are in the guidelines for that notice of intent to comply through the mining division of the main DEP. What they will do is, once that this is submitted, turned in, eventually they will come down and make a site visit to make sure that they are complying with the regulations of the permit itself. That's really all I can say about that, is that the project here proposes to meet the standards of the town and the standards of the state for the gravel pit operation. We are coming here now to have that gravel pit permitted through the town process. Back in the 40s and 50s, there was no town process for that. It has continued on now. Now that we have this in combination with the solar array project, getting that all taken care of in one application.
Yep.
Jeff, may I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So when you guys applied for your permit, you guys are going to be complying with all of Chapter 200 from the state for MSHA, the metallic mineral exploration and advanced mining, that you guys are going to be doing that? Because I ask because that does cover noise, landscaping, etc. through the state.
Yes, it does. It includes
So
it includes buffer requirements and no cut areas, and we show that on our plans,
Yeah.
and they indicate those values for what is to be.
Go ahead, have a seat, Pat.
Oh, come on. Very fine. You're fine.
So you're
we
going
show
to
that
be
in
complying with
compliance that,
Chapter
correct.
200?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so as part of those, I don't know if it's exactly Chapter 200. I don't want to say yes or no, but those regulations that are published by the DEP for mineral extraction operations, there are specific requirements. Some towns, I believe, so the town of Berwick has a larger side property line buffer requirement than the DEP does. So we will follow, and we indicate on our plans, that larger difference, that larger setback with a no cut around the perimeter of the gravel pit.
And the this application you're doing for the mining makes the property owner subject to inspection by MSHA, right? Mining safety?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So if I hear you correctly, sir, are you stating that the only 3 areas you're not compliant currently would be drainage, the open pit issue, and your separation of groundwater?
No, I think we are in compliance with them. I think what we're at right now is, so if I had a virgin piece of land and I went in and had a gravel pit and I only kept it at 3 acres, I don't need to, or 3, 4, almost 4.9 acres, I don't need to report that to the DEP.
Okay.
Because that doesn't meet their threshold for that notice of intent to comply. This obviously is larger than that. Over the years, obviously, because of what is done over that. But if we look at what's active and open currently that doesn't have vegetation on it, we don't meet that threshold yet. So I think that's kind of why this thing has slipped under the radar. It's not like this gravel pit is new. It's shown on the USGS map from the 60s that there's a gravel pit in this area. So it's just an item now that we know that we have to do the permitting for the town for the array, and we need to do now and bring the gravel pit in compliance with current standards.
So you mentioned you filed an intent to comply.
Yeah, we will. We have the application done. We will do that concurrently as this process
Have
goes
you
through.
identified where your current, what do you need to do, what areas you need to modify with your business practice to comply? Have you guys
Yeah,
identified?
there's right now there's nothing for us to change to comply. It just means now that as we get into a larger open area, now we are subject to those inspections from the DEP,
Okay.
and that we have to maintain those requirements to keep it under this notice of intent to comply permit as opposed to a larger permit.
Okay.
So if the main thing for here are 2 things. Is if you maintain your gravel pit so that the stormwater internally drains and doesn't leave the site, then everything's on your property. And if you don't excavate within 5 feet of the groundwater table, then you're in good shape on that side. If you plan to do anything different, then you have a much larger permit process that needs to go on for that, where they want to look at stormwater calculations, they want to look at those other items. But when we maintain the gravel pit as internally drained, that means that it's, if you're familiar with the permit by rule process, it's very similar to that. You are following their rules, so therefore you are in good compliance with the permit. You maintain your property line buffers where you're not going to cut trees and keep that protection from neighbors. Like I mentioned, internally drained. Keeping separation from the groundwater table.
Okay.
Yeah. The project is not in compliance, but because it doesn't meet that threshold yet. But what we know eventually is that it's going to expand to that, so we are going through that permitting process now.
Okay.
So,
Go
are you
ahead.
done?
My only concern would be, with regard to groundwater and your abutters, is I imagine most of your abutters are probably on well water.
Correct.
And to have an industrial activity of that magnitude, if it does affect the groundwater, just maybe food for thought moving forward. What conditions would you be amenable to possibly sampling current standards of the wells in the area, and maybe on a continual, periodic basis of something agreeable to you and the abutters to ensure that your operations are not contaminating wells? I think
Yeah.
that would be just something to consider and think about.
Yeah, typically that's not done for a gravel pit because of the fact that I am excavating the earth. I am not blasting bedrock, which could impact adjacent wells. That's usually small operations where you've got an excavator and a dump truck. You don't have large areas. A lot of equipment that could potentially be leaking around there. We have on our plans information on what needs to be done for a refueling pad. If they refuel vehicles out there, they have to do it over this pad, and that helps protect any kind of fuel getting into the ground and then the groundwater. And we have that information on our plans, the GP1 and GP2 talk about that, and they also have very clear notes and requirements for how the site is to be reclaimed once they're done and once they move out and have to reclaim the project.
I know Les has a question, but I want to jump on something that Phil said, because it does raise a question for me. Their mining, their extraction operations, do they plan on digging down far enough to meet the groundwater table?
No, we have, as part of this.
Because I know that kicks up a whole nother level
It
with
does.
MSHA and with
That's right.
with DEP.
Yeah,
So-
that's right.
So it is not your intent to
The
go
intent
groundwater?
is to keep that 5-foot separation from groundwater.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. That made me think to
you.
ask that one.
And that's what keeps us in that notice of intent to comply permit. The notice of intent to comply permit is a one-page, one form.
Like a
Like-
NERPA.
Yeah, like it's even simpler than a PBR application than that, with the requirements on that go into that. And you have that information that you're stating that I'm going to follow these rules, therefore I'm in compliance. And if you don't, when they come down for inspections, then obviously you're going to have violations and then
Heavy
further
fines.
permitting process that you have to work with.
Heavy fines. They hit them heavy.
Okay. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. I have some questions pertaining to the grandfathered portion of this. So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that currently the operation that's going on is grandfathered and it's allowed because it was a continuing use, regardless of transference of deeds.
Correct. Historically, this parcel here has been where the gravel pit operation has been. There was a larger parcel that was split and sold into different lots. But if we look at where, and you look at the aerial photography, and you look at that, this area here is where all those gravel operations occurred from the years and years ago to now.
Just so for clarity, so you're saying that the grandfatheredness of this transfers with the property?
Yeah, a use goes with the property.
Is there a legal precedent for that, Irish? Do you know?
That's what I'd like
Yes.
to.
Yes, there is.
There is.
The use continues through. What actually, and because of, I knew this was coming down once we got the application. I actually have Chapter 200 here. That's why I was asking about that. And they have a list when you go. They have a list with the state of known mines, whether they're currently operating, and these are the ones that have. And there's quite a few here in Berwick. That have had to go through the higher tier permitting, but the use does stay with it. It's just like in code. Anything that's on the property, that all stays on the property. If there's a violation, if there's an issue, if there's a building, it doesn't matter who owns it. It matters what the use is. For example, something pertaining to this more so than a building thing. As you guys know, I lived in Limerick for many, many, many years. F.R. Carroll, Frank Sr., owned Carroll Aggregates now is what it is. He passed away. He passed part of the business to one son and part of the business to the other. Both ultimately ended up selling. So it went from F.R. Carroll to Carroll Aggregates. They didn't have to redo all of their permitting or redo all of that. The business continued right straight through.
So there is a legal precedent, and
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
But is that a permanent business?
Yes. Yeah.
But see, that's where I'm concerned.
But the thing
and I'd
is
like
it-
Well,
So
just
the
another
way-
example, we have another applicant that is also grandfathered in through like the campgrounds. So that's just an example. So
Yeah.
someone
They-
bought that, and it's
yeah,
the campground's
okay.
still
That makes
grandfathered
sense.
into those. So
Yeah.
Okay,
Are
yeah, I
you-
just, that was raised by
Yep.
members of the public, so I wanted to address
Um,
that.
Is everybody clear? I want to make sure everybody is clear and understands it, though,
Mhm.
so that there's no, everybody, you're comfortable
I understand
with
it.
the answer?
I
You're
just had the
comfortable with it
question
now?
of whether or not that truly meets the
Is it
grandfather status.
legal?
Is it
And
legal?
Yes.
and what is the law that is cited that says that is?
After this, I don't have the law on hand. I was looking to see if they listed that in Chapter 200, but they don't, and that's the only mining stuff I have with me.
I think it'd
But,
be good for the board for us to make an educated decision to see the legalese speak, and
Okay.
if we don't have the legalese speak, to maybe query the town's attorney, just to make sure we're in the clear and making,
That would make me feel a lot more comfortable.
absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
I
Yeah, we can do
understand that we're talking about grandfathered uses, and you brought it into perspective with the campground, that certainly makes sense to me.
I know
And
the
that- and that-
confusing part of this is because it's I don't want to say it's it's a not, there's no way
It's
to
just
put
a unique
this.
situation.
Well,
a unique
well, what I'm
situation.
trying to say is that it's not a permitted mine, but it makes it sound like we don't permit it or it's not allowed. It's just it has not previously been required because there is a threshold that needs to be met in order to require permitting of a mine. And because it's never met that threshold, it's never had to be permitted, but that does not change the fact that that use has been there, it's been continual, and therefore is allowed. So it's kind of a two-piece thing. You're looking at the continuity makes it grandfathered, but I recognize that the confusion lies in the fact that it hasn't required a permit through that continuity. So that makes it a little more murky, I think.
Right.
So I'll see
You
if I
may
can.
have answered the second
So-
part of that question.
So with the permitting, they now have to follow the newer guidelines, which if they didn't permit, they would just be operating it as is.
Yes, they
And
can,
how it was.
legally speaking,
So
they can continue to operate
This
exactly
is a
as they
bump
are.
up for us on control and scalability and
This is
regulations.
this is not a bump up. This is a huge climbing Mount Everest bump up because they can literally right now, legally, because it's legally a mine, it's legally been a mine. It does not meet a threshold for permitting because, as we all know, they set these thresholds for various reasons, but it doesn't meet that threshold. They could continue to operate that mine forever under that threshold and never have to meet a single one of these rules, never be subject to MSHA inspections, which are extremely, extremely strict. Because they're doing this, now not only do they have to meet all these standards, but now it's not going to be just my eyes as the town code officer on it. There's going to be the DEP's eyes, it's going to be MSHA's eyes, it's going to be OSHA's eyes, it's everybody.
Right.
And they're going to have to be compliant with a whole lot of things, especially as that expands. So it would be, if they're going to continue it, I would prefer it to be permitted. I'll just put it that way. If they're going to continue.
I agree. So that was the second part of my question, was
Yes.
that they could continue under the current operation indefinitely
That's right.
without
Yeah, so
any
what-
permitting
yeah,
or
so what we
any
looked at doing
oversight.
here with that is to bring it in compliance, to bring it in to the current town zoning, where this was started before there was zoning, and bring it into the requirements that are standard for gravel pits across the state of Maine, through the DEP, and then also the town of Berwick requirements. So,
And I really appreciate, personally, I think that the solar farm on a reclaimed gravel pit is an exceptional
Best place
use.
to
I
do
mean, I think that's, for me, that's really nice. I really appreciate that. I just really wanted to address and make sure that that we were, on that same page with the grandfathered ownership changing hands. The other issue that was brought up that I don't know where this fits in, but the hours of operation for that gravel pit.
yeah, so we have hours of operation on our gravel pit plan itself. We have it on the hours of operation Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon, and then no Sunday hours.
Okay, so that is addressed in the plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Is that
then
on GP1?
GP1,
No,
yeah.
page I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Jerry, please.
I got two things that were brought up, just to follow up on. Somebody mentioned the possibility of bringing in a crusher and causing noise. Is that going to happen? Because when we were out there and did the site walk, there was nothing like that there.
Yeah, there was a screener there, but there wasn't,
screener.
but not a crusher. And they will bring a crusher in, and they've brought it in for years doing that. It's not something that happens all the time. They bring it in when they have a pile that they need to work on. And if you're out there, the screener is probably just as loud as the crusher, in all honesty now. And what they do is they'll rent that crusher from a larger company, and they come in for a week or two or whatever it is, because not many people
Right.
carry a crusher.
I guess A follow-on to that would be, has the town had any complaints in the past that we know of?
Absolutely nothing that I could find in any of the files on the server or paper files.
Okay, and then the last thing I have, because of this, permitting and all that, do you plan on increasing the use?
No, it's going to continue. You saw Dwayne that was there at the thing, and he's going to continue to be the person that's using the pit. So right now it's going to stay that small operation like it has.
Okay.
One more follow-up to that kind of question. Is there a set max number of trips per day and per week? And if not, are you willing is your client willing to put that on the plan? Because I have not had complaints about this particular operation, I have had complaints about a different operation here in town going over the trip amount that it was approved for, and I would like to know what the anticipated trip maximum would be for trucks in and out of there. If you don't have that information
I don't have
now,
that information today, and I'd like to discuss that.
If you can get that for me, I would appreciate that. I'd like to have some sort of upper end of what they can expect. I think that would be helpful for the board and the neighbors, and definitely for me later down the road.
If I could comment on that, I'm not really, being in the construction business, I'm really not sure that that's a fair limit to put, because I know I'm familiar with this pit, and I know how this pit operates, and I know who runs it, and I know that it's a small operation. He pretty much uses it for himself. And being in the construction business, I might have 20 trucks a day of gravel coming in this week, and I might not have any trucks coming
It's
in
a project by project basis.
Yes, but what I'm
for
what
2
I'm-
months.
What I'm looking for, Les, is are they looking to max out at 100 trips a week? Are they looking to max out at no more than 40 trucks in or out a day? What is reasonable for that size pit? So that way, if they start becoming, it's kind of the trigger for me to, when I get the call that, this pit is supposed to have 100 trips a day, and I'm counting about 200 trucks going by, then I know that they're probably exceeding their mineral extraction requirements, and I need to set eyes on it and see exactly what they're doing. So it's just, I don't care if they take what they're anticipating as their maximum and double it, because it's a small pit. I don't care if that trip thing needs to be changed later. I just want some idea of what they're anticipating. If it's too much of an ask for the board, by all means, just tell them not to do it.
Is that a private
absolutely
road or
fine.
public road?
What's that?
That's
Private.
It's on Wentworth Road.
It's a private road.
It's
that
town
comes
road,
onto
yeah.
Wentworth.
Any
When the
abutters?
rain comes through with a load by my house.
You can't speak unless you're at the mic.
Ma'am, you can't.
I guess one concern would be, if you guys would be amenable, because of the people that utilize that road for their residences, if you would enter into a maintenance agreement, just consider that as a condition, just to keep the road up, so it's not beat.
Well, yes,
Wentworth
front
is a town
house.
road.
It is a town road.
Yeah, the
Wentworth
only
is-
private road per se is the
Going
piece
into
going
the
into
pit.
the
Dirt road.
pit.
Access
Okay.
road.
Did you make the sidewalk?
I did.
Yeah, so that little dirt road part would be
Okay.
theirs to maintain.
I got you.
Wentworth is town road, so we would handle that if they start tearing it up.
Okay, so that is something the town would pursue.
We would
If it
pursue,
was a
and that's
usage
part of
issue
what their
that caused the
bonded,
damage.
what their
Okay.
bonds come through and all of that, yes.
Okay.
So we will maintain that.
I think basically what you're asking, Eric, is say now they're doing 50 trips a week, 50 loads. Is he anticipated to stay within that, or are they looking to double? That's what you're
Yes.
asking.
Yeah, I'm looking at what their ultimate projection maximum busiest day of the year trip count might be, so that if they double that I would then, I'll get that call and I would know.
To what Les has said too, it goes project by project. You might need 10 loads today, but 20 loads tomorrow.
That's why I want them to take the absolute max that they anticipate for any given week.
That way-
And they can even add a little to it to buffer themselves. And if for the record, if I were to get a call saying, hey, they were limited, they said they were only going to do 30 trips a day, and they've done 45 already, and it's only 3 o'clock, I would call, and if they said, listen, we got a project going on, say the end of the day, this is what you guys promised, make sure you get it wrapped up now and be done. I wouldn't be down there, throw it every 5 minutes about it. I just want to make sure that we have something in place that if they, I don't foresee this, but if they should go excessively beyond, that we have something there that would trip a trigger that I can refer to, that I can then have a justification to say, hey, coming to check out your mining operation, see what you've got going on for your extraction and how many trips you've got. But if you guys are not comfortable with that, I 100% accept it, and that's fine. I just
So-
thought I'd ask.
This is related to the, anyway. For the performance standards for mineral industries, it is 8.10. 8.10.C.9. All access and egress roads leading to or from the extraction site to public ways shall be treated with suitable materials to reduce dust and mud for a distance of at least 100 feet from such public ways. So essentially, they have to make sure that 100 feet of that private way before it turns on to Wentworth is treated so that they're not getting a ton of dust, dirt, whatnot onto Wentworth.
Yep.
Just a question on the solar component of your project. You mentioned it's a 1 megawatt field.
Correct.
Is that a self-imposed limitation, or is that a choice you're making due to CMP's capacity?
I'm going to turn that over to Clark Fenner, who can give a better answer to that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Clark Fenner with Synergy Solar Development. That limit was determined due to CMP's and the state's requirements. The solar industry in Maine has gone through a lot of changes over the last few years, and there are these cluster studies that are going on throughout the state. There is no end in sight for these things. So we reduced the size from 2 megawatts to 1 megawatt to fall within what's called the Level 2 project, and just below 1 megawatt, 999 kilowatts. At that point, we're not subject to a cluster study. We're not subject to the regional operator, and therefore we are able to move the project forward and get interconnect.
So if I'm hearing you guys are going to stick with the 1 megawatt, and even if CMP, if they happen to increase their capacity later, are you going to come back before the board looking to expand? That's my question.
There would be no thought of any expansion, at least for 6 years. If at that time there is still capacity on the line, and currently there's plenty of capacity, but there's a lot of other regulations that come into play if you go beyond that. And the transmission infrastructure in the state is really being overloaded by large projects, and because of that, we tend to like to keep them small and keep the interconnection costs down. So this, the 1 megawatt site is on that particular property. It avoids site law. It avoids a lot of different complications, which tend to delay or even sometimes make projects impossible. So in this case, it's simplified getting a project on the property, which is what the landowner wanted to do, and simplified interconnection with CMP.
I have a quick question about the solar. Is there any concern that they're gonna get covered in dust?
There is a concern. It is going to be watched.
Okay.
One of the things that can be done, all of these are monitored remotely,
Yep.
and if we see production begin to go down due to gravel, dust,
Yep.
that ends up, they'll send somebody out to clean it.
Okay.
What do you use to clean them?
Right.
Is it just water?
It's just water, yeah.
Okay,
Just
just
for a while. I know, it's-
watching the wells. Just
Absolutely.
watching the wells.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
just- It's just pure water. So,
Just gotta water my solar panels today.
okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, so another concern or question was just about if the land use ordinance passes, what are the standards for the project? So the standards, since this applicant has come in before the vote, we are holding them to the previous standards. That's just how it is. Once an application comes in, it's very difficult to make them do the new standards.
Yeah, we can only enforce what's.
Right.
What
Yeah,
was
what's
already
on- what's on
there.
the books.
Once the application is accepted by the board, then it's locked into those current ordinances.
Correct.
I'm not sure that's 100% true, based on our training.
A substantial review.
Yeah.
It
Once
falls under
it's-
the substantial review portion, as our attorney said. Once you guys accept the application as complete, then it is
Okay.
under
Yeah.
the, there's a little bit of here and there, but that's definitely it. Some people could argue that because we've received it, you guys received it, SMPDC's reviewed it, but
And have we accepted this application as complete?
that's what
we're doing.
That's what we're here for tonight, once we accept it as complete. However, although you cannot hold any applications to the new standards, you can condition them as closely as possible to with using the current performance standards. So it doesn't have to necessarily be all or nothing. You can apply some conditions, but you can't make it exactly the same, unfortunately. It's just the way it works.
Well, I don't think, I think the fact that they're going to get this gravel pit permitted, I don't know what performance standards we would look to change anyways, other than the permitting process.
We actually
performance
have
standards that are going in.
the mineral
what it is?
extraction is
The mineral
already
extraction.
covered in land use.
Yeah.
We already have mineral extraction covered in land use, so
Right.
that's
The only thing new
the
would be
solar.
the solar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
which I don't recall that there was a whole lot that was.
It- What they're doing is a small enough system that it's,
And given the location, screening is covered
Yep.
in.
yeah, you don't see it from the road. There's a lot of things that factor in that it would be basically under those performance standards still.
Yeah, and I think I also want to kind of just clarify, I think you have to accept the application as complete before you can even schedule a public hearing.
Yes.
So I
It
think
it already has
Oh.
been
So it's already
completed.
been
Oh, that's
accepted.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So-
We did that.
Yep.
Thank you, Jeff. I was backwards. I
Yeah.
apologize.
This board loves to find the application complete like a million times.
We just like to make
With
sure.
every
Yeah.
meeting, Phil really wants to find it complete.
Phil wants
His
to make
favorite
sure
motion.
that they have it right. That's all.
Yep.
So we're not looking for completeness tonight?
Nope.
That has been established?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Are we,
Completeness has been established?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because we already scheduled the site
The
walk
site
and the
walk.
public hearing.
Okay.
After this is just accepting it.
Okay.
And,
can we accept with conditions?
well, what conditions would we put under it?
So I would like to propose a condition that, we find it complete, move forward with the condition that we get legal opinion and the actual, I'd like to see eyes on the law with
Yeah.
regard to the grandfather issue.
I made a note to get you guys some information on that. And I'm
Is that a
currently waiting
reasonable
for-
condition for you as an applicant?
I don't think it's needed based on where we. where
It's
we
just
stand
due to
with
my
that.
lack of
Sure.
knowledge.
Yep.
It's due to my lack of knowledge,
Sure.
and it'll
Yep.
give me a warm fuzzy that we're doing the right thing. That's all.
Are you making a motion on that?
I will make a motion that it's already complete,
Mhm.
that we move this project forward with the condition that we get a legal opinion from the town attorney regarding the grandfathered usage
Do you,
of the project.
careful of
You
how
mean
you word that.
accept
Do
the
you want to make
conditional
it
use?
town
Like that,
attorney,
please.
town attorney and/or a
And
copy
or-
of the law?
And/or eyes on the law.
Okay, so
that's-
that way I can do one or the other, because if I can
That's
save the town,
reasonable.
if I can save the town money by finding the law and giving it to you, I'd rather do that.
Do I
I
get a
I
cut?
think the
Do I get a
verbiage
cut?
of-
I mean, what is-
Phil, I think the verbiage of move the project forward is not.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Right.
Yes.
Because I don't think, I think that, I was satisfied with the fact that, we have other projects in front of us that are grandfathered and continued use. I I think that answered my question, so I'm
It's
just
just that
weighing in my opinion.
I'm a little hypersensitive to the mining aspect of it. I don't disagree, but is that different?
So the only language that I know off the top of my head, because I don't know what the actual law says, in the ordinance, in the 810 for the mineral industry, 810E, which is, this is kind of related, kind of not, existing operations. If any existing operation is discontinued for a period of more than 3 years, then no earth removal shall commence, continue, or resume until a site plan review permit has been issued by the planning board. Discontinuation is defined as being the excavation, processing, or storage of less than 10 cubic yards of material. So if they had discontinued their use for a period of at least 3 years, then you may be reconsidering the whole grandfathered status. But since this has been a continued use, then that's not in question.
That is the law.
This
That's
is
our
the
That is-
ordinance.
Land use ordinance. Okay.
It's not
It's our law.
exactly what your question
It's
is,
our law.
but as
Okay.
far as the gravel pit operation goes, even if they were permitted before, they stopped, they would still have to come back regardless.
Yeah, it's a, I don't want to say it's a non-conforming use, but it's a use that has not been permitted until now, because there's a need to permit it with this
Right.
overall project development.
Gotcha.
So it's like I don't know, think about any kind of a commercial building that's been around for a long time. The use has been the same, but they want to expand, or they don't want to expand, they just want to continue going on. And then they want to build another building on that lot. Then it never had a site plan that comes to you. You're reviewing all of those uses on that piece of property. With here now, we're bringing the use into the current compliance, where there was no rules or regulations prior.
I think they're going above and beyond.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'd like to strike that condition. I'm satisfied with
fine.
Hannah's
Yeah.
explanation.
The use itself is a conditional
see if
use
I
in
can
the
give you
zone,
some.
so even if this was a whole new application, it would be permitted. They're not trying to continue a use that you wouldn't have allowed otherwise. They're not asking to continue a use larger than you would have allowed otherwise, anything like that. So I think.
Okay.
Did you want to amend your motion?
I will amend my motion and rescind that condition.
So you'd
if
like
I
to
may.
make a,
I'd like to make a motion to rescind, well, actually, we didn't vote on it, so
Nope.
it was never,
Nope,
we didn't vote on it.
It wasn't seconded.
So done and
so-
done.
Yeah.
you started to make a motion, but we
I'm
never.
not going to make a motion.
A motion for, never mind.
Make a motion to not motion.
Make a motion to not motion, that's a good one. I actually have the solar proposed land use ordinance, and I don't see anything on it that they're actually not compliant with, except for potentially the fencing shall be placed 8 inch off the ground to allow for safe passage of wildlife.
And we on our plan, we indicate the fact that we're using that wildlife sensitive.
Okay, and then the only other thing is having a Knox box located for emergency access, which I believe the fire chief might have already asked for.
Yes, and we have that indicated on the plan as well.
So the other things that are on here are all things that I think we require anyways for our solar, with as far as capacity letter, decommissioning plans. You guys are required to do that through the state anyway.
Yep, we submitted that in our package.
Yeah,
The
so,
state does require a
The
surety
state-
bond as well.
Yes, the state has their own, and then once we're working on that submission, once that comes through, then the copy will be provided to the town.
Does the state require a periodicity where they reevaluate future decommissioning costs? Because my concern, I don't know if they do, but I know some of the other projects, we had conditioned where you
5
get
or
that
10 years
every
from now.
every 5 years reevaluate, because construction costs go up, disposal costs go up. If we commit to a surety bond in today's dollars, and that solar farm's around for 10 or 15 years, I just don't
Or
want the
25 years.
or
30,
20
yeah.
I just don't want the landowner being stuck holding the tab for decom. So,
If a bond's not sufficient.
correct. Is that part of the state's requirement?
I believe the state has changed their regulations. In the beginning, they did not have that kind of escalation clause in there. I believe that the current MDP decommissioning plan does have that, to anticipate that their construction costs are different 20 years from now.
If it doesn't, I want to make sure we get that in as a condition. I know we've done it on previous projects. Can we verify that that is or is not?
I can tell you it's not in the new land use ordinance. So,
Good times.
yeah, so, but they do meet everything that we have on here.
All right.
So
Well, then
that's-
I will make a motion that we add the condition that decommissioning expenditures in future dollars be reevaluated every 5 years and the surety bond maintained with sufficient funds for decommissioning at the end of life of the solar farm.
Can I ask a question?
You exist?
Can I ask a question? So, would that apply, Phil, even if it, I thought he was saying that the current DEP standards
said it.
allow for an escalation? Did you?
I believe it does. I don't.
So,
If
I'm
the
looking.
state covers it, great.
Okay,
If it
so we'll-
doesn't, I want that condition in to protect our
Okay,
our
so that's
community and the
if the
landowner.
current DEP standards do not allow for the escalation, then, okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay. The new law generally requires decommissioning to a depth of at least 24 inches of the depth of bedrock.
We
Are
can.
we talking about the solar or the?
Solar. Solar.
Crap, solar.
Okay.
I'm on solar, I
Okay, you
promise.
said bedrock. I did not.
Well, yeah, because they're talking about
Are we going to vote on
reclaiming.
that motion?
No, we're talking about reclaiming the.
Oh,
The
and
decommissioning talks about reclaiming the land to the bedrock.
Yes.
So sorry, that was.
we also have previously conditioned that disposal must be done outside of the state of Maine. And I would like to add that as a condition as well. Disposal at the end of service life.
Financial assurance be updated 15 years after approval of the plan and no less frequently than every 5 years thereafter by December 31st of the year the update is due. And then the common decommissioning conditions included previously were every 5 years, which include updates no later than 5 and 10. So 5 and 10, the 5 and 10 years are not required in the new law. So they're taking out their 5-year and 10-year requirement for reevaluating.
Reevaluation.
Yeah. And so they're going with 15 years and then every 5 years is what the new state law requires.
So it's 15
I think that's reasonable.
and then 5.
So it's approved,
For
and
the
then for
state.
the first
Okay.
15 years, probably because
2025.
they're not really
It's gonna be
dying in the
life.
first 15 years. It's 15 years is when they start looking at some potential
And that's not a
failure.
draft law, that's an approved state law.
This is the solar decommissioning site location of development law minor revision.
Okay.
Gotcha. I
I think I'm
gotcha.
satisfied with that.
I'm satisfied with that. I would like to add the condition, we did do it on a previous application, that upon decommissioning, the panels be disposed of out of the state of Maine.
I don't know how you can do that, but we can look into that. I'm just concerned about, curious on how that can be.
My concern and my reason for that is not to be overly difficult on the applicant.
Yeah.
It's, we're in a small town, we have a lot of people that are on well water. Solar panels are known, if you look at the MSDS, are known to have lead, cadmium, and other chemicals. I do not want those put in a landfill in our town where people are on well water, if it leaches into the groundwater and affects our viability of groundwater in the long term. I just don't, that's not a risk as somebody who fulfills this role that I'm willing to impose upon our populace.
I think you can say, as a representative for the town of Berwick, you can say that they cannot be disposed in the town of Berwick. I don't know if you can say that
I
they
don't
cannot
think
be
it's
disposed
reasonable
in the
that
state of
that we
Maine.
would send our trash to another town in our state to be disposed of, and
I think,
Our trash goes to Rochester, though.
I'm still not. Well,
Mike.
You sure you want that condition?
Jerry.
Jerry, please.
I think what we said on some of the other ones is it has to go to a certified disposal site, which does it right and does not allow that.
That's what I'd be okay
Right.
with, and because I think, knowing a little bit about the solar panels now, the solid state solar panels, do they still have those hazardous chemicals? Because I don't,
the last so we asked for an MSDS from the last applicant, and they did. So that's my concern.
Right. But if you send it to a certified disposal
that's
facility,
what I would say
and they
is,
dispose of it properly, it will not go into the ground. It'll get recycled as. So I think we can put that word in.
and I got to believe that that's part of the state
I
ordinance.
think that's part of
anyways.
the state
It
decommissioning
is.
plan.
You
too.
can't just
Is it
dump
in
them in
there?
your backyard.
The full, not in that little section, but yes, in the decommissioning plan, it does require that they remove all solar panels to a proper, certified, thank you, my
Recycling
brain is done,
facility.
certified
I'd be pretty
facility
surprised
for
if they
removal.
didn't spell it out where they
Okay.
have to go.
Yeah.
So I will amend my motion that upon decommissioning, the solar panels be disposed at an appropriate and approved recycling facility.
Okay, so that was an official motion?
That is my motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Further discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Okay.
Did we vote on the first?
No, that was just for a,
He backed off the first one. He amended
She
his
she showed me
amended
the
We said never mind because the
Right.
state
because
Correct.
it's
got
Yep.
it. Okay.
covered under
Yep.
law.
that was just a condition.
Related to the disposal, in their decommissioning plan, they do already have a statement that says modules will be sold for reuse or dismantled and packaged for manufacturer or approved recyclers specifications and shipped to an approved off-site approved recycler. Very
Okay.
approved.
So I think
So it's
that-
already
that
in
makes
there.
our
That's in our
motion move.
decommissioning plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Does that mean we are removing the condition?
Sorry to muddy the water. Just
Are we
trying
going
to
to
do our due
amend the
diligence.
amended amendment?
I
Make
would
a
keep
motion,
it there.
motion to
Okay.
remove
We're
We're just
that
going to leave it alone.
condition.
Okay.
Retract it. Okay. Well, there's a motion.
I will second.
Okay.
Well,
Let's
Sorry.
close your motion.
Motion to retract it.
Further discussion? All in favor? All
I
right.
make a
So
motion.
that,
Excuse me,
that
let's keep
condition
the
has
motion.
been.
Just the condition.
It's just the condition.
Okay.
That's
Correct.
all we were
Thank
voting
you.
on.
These
Thank
minutes
you.
are going to be great for you to type up.
Terry is now sending each of you a lump of coal for Christmas. Just saying.
All right.
And Jeff is fortunately already bald because I think he would have lost his hair to nothing.
Related to the motion that you made and then took back, just to second the God.
Decommissioning?
No, the funding, the reconsideration.
Surety
of the-
bond?
Yes,
Yep.
that. In their decommissioning plan, they do have the statement of the 15-year reapproval and then every 5 years after. That's already in here.
That's fair.
So we're good there.
Reading is fundamental. I will do my homework next time. Sorry to
That's okay.
hold you guys up.
That's why I sit here with it in front of me.
So with
I wasn't reading that.
this accepting the conditional use permits, are we doing it just together, or do we have to do it separate for the solar and the mining?
It's one project.
You could do either. I would recommend a conditional use permit for each,
Okay.
just to keep them two separate. But
Okay.
do you have a preference, Joe?
No.
Will you have the bonds separately for each use, or will it just be one bond for the site?
We'll do separate for each use.
Okay, so
There'll
then,
be
yeah,
the
I would do
decommissioning
two
bond
different-
Okay.
for the solar, and
Okay.
then there's the, I'm not sure exactly what the amount is for gravel pit, if there is one, but.
It's something.
there's-
Don't make us split
Yeah.
that up too.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reclamation bond for that.
Yeah. So yeah, I would do separate just to
Okay.
keep the.
So I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the solar.
Second.
Jerry beat you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Next is, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the gravel pit.
I will second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Carrie and Irish, I'll work with you, get all the final documents together again.
Yep.
Yes,
Perfect.
please.
Thank you.
The language about the bond is.
Thank you,
somewhere
Jeff.
in here.
It is, yeah, I think I have it in here.
We'll find
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
if
Thank
we
you for your
don't have to
patience
find
as we
it
get
tonight.
smart on this. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've read it already tonight.
All right, moving
Yeah,
along in
but
old
fine,
business,
yeah.
we have conditional use, Beaver Dam Campground, 551 School Street, R53, Lot 13A.
How good.
Oh, sorry, it was
They
tabled.
tabled
Okay.
that.
I
You've
have
got
my.
the old agenda.
Yeah, I grabbed it from Tuesday.
Oh, that's right, you
Yeah.
were here this morning.
Okay, so that got tabled. Never mind.
Just kidding.
That was
Wait.
tabled after
Are
I
we-
saw you.
Site plan, Silver Therapeutic. Okay. So new business, we have conditional use and site plan review, Silver Therapeutics, 60 Route 236, R57, Lot 55, Zone RCI.
Can we get it so Josh Silva
Yeah,
can,
he's up here.
the audio is not working for him.
They haven't muted.
They have it muted.
They have to
Yeah,
be
if-
muted.
If you just want to come up
Hold
and
on.
state your name.
Can he not hear us, or can we?
Yeah,
Those are two different questions.
Oh, he's texting.
Well, it looks like his mic is muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
Let me see if he's muted here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just see if he's muted.
Him not
here.
being able to hear us is different than us not being able to
Right.
hear him. So.
Oh, he just needs to unmute himself at his computer.
Yeah, he's muted on his own end. He's unmuted himself.
Technology.
He's there.
He's right here.
There he is.
Oh, there he goes. Hi.
I don't know if you can you hear us, Josh?
Oh. Hi.
I don't see the muted microphone.
Right.
Ask him to speak. Oh, God.
Josh, can you say something for us?
Hey, Josh. Yeah, they're telling me that you need to unmute your speaker.
He's not muted on our end.
Okay.
Does he have a microphone?
There, Josh.
It's like coming through every other word. Like, there's something wrong with the recording equipment.
Can you folks hear that?
We can, but
It's
the
like
people
coming
at
in every
home
other-
cannot.
It's
You're
like
gonna-
coming in every other.
Terry, mute this for half a second. We're going to do this just so that
Okay.
the people,
Perfect.
and I'm going to ask you
Excellent.
to speak a little bit louder so that they can
I will. No
make sure
problem.
everybody gets caught on the microphone.
Yeah, I can hear that perfectly.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that fixes it. That's the best I can do. Sorry. All right. So,
All right. My name's Dana Brown, DNR Haven, and I'm here to just answer questions for you folks and whatever Josh needs me for.
is he?
And can the board hear me?
Can
He's having,
folks hear him?
yeah, he's having
can.
trouble, so we've got him on
Yeah.
speakerphone. Can you guys hear him in there? No?
So my name is Josh Slover. I'm the owner
Hey,
of
Josh, not to interrupt, but we can't hear you for the recording that goes out on television. And I think that's going to be a no-go for us. If we can't figure out this technical issue, we might have to
I think
reschedule.
Terry's working on it. Let's just give her 1 minute.
Would you mind if we moved to the next agenda item and came back to you while we work that out?
yeah, no, of course.
Okay.
All right, we'll wait a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we'll just wait a second. Just
Okay.
We're good?
So,
All right.
Hold it right underneath the
We got your,
microphone,
you
Dana.
said your all set is on
Make sure the
there.
volume's all the way up on your phone, too.
yeah.
Yeah, you got your volume.
Right there. Yeah.
Just make sure that we.
There you go, Josh.
Okay, Dana, you might have to repeat what the board,
No
some of
problem.
the board questions.
Sure.
But my name is Josh Silver. Thank you so much for allowing me to appear this way. I'm sorry there's some technical difficulties, but I'm calling in from New York, upstate New York, Saratoga Springs. So, I just wasn't able to make it out there this evening. So thank you. But our plan, I think, is pretty straightforward. We've been operating our marijuana dispensary in Berwick for a little over a year, and really have had a lot of success there. People seem to like it. We like being there. Haven't had any issues with our neighbors. It's gone as good as it could go. That being said, we are seeing a little bit of congestion. Nothing, that I think is affecting traffic out on the road there. But, for our customers, when they're in there trying to turn around and there's a car coming in, we're trying to improve the situation a little bit. And what we have here is a proposal to add some parking spaces. And I think, with that, I can answer any questions you guys might have.
How much pavement are you looking to add?
Dana, can you say that one more time? Can you repeat
How much pavement are we looking to add?
Let's see.
6,700.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, it's about 6,500 square feet, so.
The parking area is currently 12 parking spaces, and they're looking to expand to 30 total parking spaces. Additional 6,700 square feet of asphalt with some lighting, signage, and additional plantings.
Okay, and that is an allowable size for that
Yes.
spot?
Yep, the maximum lot coverage in the RCR zone is 80%. Existing conditions are 30%, and the proposed lot coverage would be 47%.
Oh, okay. Yep. Fire and police had no issues. I saw those.
Fire and police had no issues, Josh?
Yeah, no, I was just,
No.
I was
Okay,
just
sorry.
stating it. I just read them.
Public Works also had no issues.
Yeah. This is a pretty straightforward issue. It's not like you're adding anything other than parking.
We definitely get something from the fire chief, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Yep, there's a letter with no concern from fire and police.
Okay.
So Jerry just brought up the question about signage. Is it just going to be for parking signage?
Signage, is it gonna be just for parking signage, like just striping and arrows
Yeah,
and
we're
stuff
not
of
adding
that
any
sort?
street signage or building signage at all.
Okay. All right. Yep, that was just the question. Okay. It is. So with this, we could find it complete, and then we could also approve it.
Does your ordinance allow you to waive a public hearing?
We just did it on the trailer.
trailer,
Yes.
So yes.
Okay.
And for the record, they have a brand new sign, street sign, because somebody went off the road this past winter, ran it over, and they had to put a new one in. So they did their new branding and a new sign. So I don't foresee that they would have wanted to change that. 'Cause it's
Right.
like-
We just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
with the wording that it was just there
Just
adding
there,
the
yeah.
signage for the parking.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we find this applicant complete.
I would second that motion.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? All right. Now, let's discuss, do you guys feel the need to have a site walk or a public hearing?
I don't think so.
We
I
need a
think,
site walk, but I think we should give the abutters an opportunity. Unless there's something we're missing that's obvious, I think we would be remiss by not.
I don't know if oh Lord help me. I don't want to speak out of turn, but for what it's worth, they're nearest to abutter, and there's a very distinct reason why I asked if the fire department sent a letter.
Yes. He is an abutter.
The fire chief is the nearest abutter.
Yep.
And I found that out because when I got a contact from him about the sign having been knocked down, they kind of propped it back up temporarily, and the design of the sign originally blocked the lighting for the sign from, light polluting on the chief's property.
downlight.
And then, because when they put it back up, didn't have that bottom piece. It was actually light polluting right into the chief's house, and I had to go down there and deal with. So I'm aware of the congested parking, trying to pull the code car in and out of there. They made that remediation, and obviously the chief, who's the closest abutter, has no problem. But I can't speak to, neighbors across the street, or if any of them might be in the audience, or.
I think
so-
we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't put out an abutters notification, at least hear their concerns, if there are any, and if there are none, then we move it forward.
That's fine. That's why I said I didn't
I
want to
don't,
speak out of turn. I don't know.
I don't agree. I think that, we're talking about a business
Parking.
that is, right, it's the
If
business
it
is
was
already
the business
existing.
itself, right, I'd agree with Les. If it was the business itself coming in for this conditional use, then yes, I would agree with Phil.
And the
but
issue with the parking is that, the same number of people are pulling into that parking lot,
regardless,
whether
right.
there's parking spots or not.
Right.
So I think it almost becomes a public safety issue. I drive by that business all the time. They do a great job keeping that property up. It's a
Yep.
beautiful building. It was a great improvement to the neighborhood, I think. And I think that if they need more parking, I think that we should allow it. I think as long as the lighting is down lights and it's not causing light pollution to the neighbors, I don't know that a public hearing serves any purpose.
And what Hannah said, it'd only bring it up to 40-something%,
47.
and the maximum is 80.
80.
So that
Industrial.
yeah, right. So I don't see any problems. Jerry, what's your thought on this?
I could go both ways. I see what Phil's concern is, but I don't know, like Les said, I don't know if it's warranted. Because
Right.
we're
If
only
it was
doing- we're only
expanding
doing
the
parking.
business building,
Right.
then I would be in
If
favor
they-
of the
if they-
thing, but just expanding the parking to to take the capacity of what they're currently doing.
Right. That's my gut feel, is if they were looking for more business, which probably is not going to happen, they're just wanting safer parking for their customers.
Right, if they want to put an addition on and add,
Right.
you know.
Then I'd say yes.
50 spots or
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
And the additional parking is right on the side where Chief Plant's house is, so if he wanted to say something, he would have already.
He did provide comment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But not
The chief,
Not
related
the
to that.
chief is
but
the one who
related to fire.
sends the letter for the board about it. He's the one that actually signs off. That's why I asked very specifically if the chief. I didn't want to step out of turn, but I wanted to make sure because
Okay.
I'm aware the parking's on his side. I'm aware he's already had one issue, but they were very quick to literally out there with me, standing out there trying to figure out what was going on. And I know that if they do something wrong, chief's going to call me. So it's
So we have eyes on the project.
24/7 eyes on the project. But,
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this conditional use for the extra parking.
Do we have to waive the public hearing first?
No.
No, okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay. Thank you.
You're all set, Josh.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time, and thanks again for bearing with me with the technical issue.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening.
always eat before the meetings.
That's very key. All right, so next in new business, conditional use, Stop and Go Berwick, 355 Portland Street, R70, Lot 12, Zone RCI.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wyatt Page of Adder Engineering. I'm here representing my client Kevin Patel, who's also in attendance. And all right. So, for anyone
Could you
who-
start again at the introduction because you were
Yes,
away
of
from
course.
the microphone?
You might have to bring it up a little, too.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wyatt Page of Adder Engineering. I am here representing my client, Kevin Patel, who is also in attendance, and we are proposing the construction of a combination gas station and convenience store. We're calling it the Stop and Go. There is a similar one in Elliott, and we are proposing that we bring one here to Berwick. The specifics of it, it is a 6-pump gasoline filling station along with a 7,500 square foot building as currently proposed. This would contain a 6,000 square foot convenience store and a 1,500 square foot storage area. The parcel is currently undeveloped. It's entirely a flat field with only a small portion of an existing driveway that has remained gravel for quite some time. Our proposal takes into account the nearby locations of several abutting wells and has taken precautions to make sure that we are conforming to the town zoning requirements as much as possible.
So I did, I'll just jump in real quick. I did a review of this for completeness at this stage. There were 2 items that I had noted in my memo that were not included in the application package. The first one was signed plans. It turned out I just had the wrong plan set. So we do have the full set of signed plans, so that has been satisfied. They just were not sent to me, but the town had them the whole time. And then the other was erosion and sediment control plan, and that is also included in the full plan set that I just had not seen at that point. So we are A-okay.
Okay.
And what are we seeking today? What is it?
Just completeness, and then we'd schedule the site walk. Correct?
I just have one question.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you
I'm
can.
just wondering what the 1,500 square foot storage is for?
So it's my understanding that it would be primarily used for storage of food, goods in the convenience store that would not be out front on the shelves.
Just stock, basically?
Yeah. If, assuming that it's similar to the location that I've seen in Elliott, they also have, although I can't speak for this being accurate to this, I know that they have some small food items as well that are prepared on site. Again, I don't think this matches with our currently proposed use, but I know for now it's proposed as storage, and if I can provide any further details on that later on, I certainly will.
I don't know.
But
Okay.
as I understand it, the 1,500 square feet is for storage, yes.
Okay. Quick question. This is the planning report. It does not have a property owner or owner's address. It is in the paperwork, but it's just not on your report. Okay. This is just your report. So.
Right. I just,
Yep.
Okay.
That's just her memo to the board, so.
Okay.
Mr.
I didn't
Patel
know
is
if she
the
saw
property
that.
owner. Is that-
Apparently
Okay.
not. So
Same
good,
as
good catch,
applicant.
Jerry.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
I look at this stuff all the time.
Yep. Yep. We just want to make sure everything's there. There's no waivers requested. Yeah. Is there any other questions, concerns?
Not at this time for me.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we find this applicant complete.
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next would be to schedule the site walk and public hearing.
Didn't you pick a date for that? The brains of the operations, looking up the
The
dates.
calendar of the operations.
Oh, no, I'm changing her name from Planning and Code Enforcement Administrative
Right.
Assistant
Nothing.
to either
Right.
Administrative Coordinator or Code Wrangler.
One and another one.
She can be the...
So,
Yes.
If possible, the second meeting in November.
so we should do maybe the site walk on the 9th and the,
Didn't we pick something earlier on the calendar?
So the 9th would be
Was that
the
it?
off
You sure?
off
Ninth is
week.
off week, so we
Okay.
can do the
All right.
6th.
Okay. I mean, that would work.
Or do you want to do the 16th so you don't have to come out again?
So the 9th is an off week.
I guess.
I think doing it the 9th would probably be the better bet, just in case there are people that want to spend some time looking at it. They could spend the time, because if not, we'll have maybe a half an hour to an hour before the meeting to look things over. So if we could do it on that off week.
At what time?
And where are we on daylight at
Ooh.
that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the clock changing, you're going to be close to 4:30-ish sunset, I think.
It's
Yeah.
after the
So
clock.
So should we do a 4 o'clock?
Let's look it up. What date are you proposing?
The 9th.
The 9th.
11/9.
I don't need to walk the site, I know where it is.
You wouldn't have to walk far, Jerry. Mr. Chair?
Yep.
If I may, it might be a good idea to start now with just reminding people that the site walk is not the question and answer portion.
Right.
And
so
that
this-
all questions
so with the
need to be
site
directed
walk,
to you.
it's an information gathering session. It's not really a question and answer. If you have basic questions like where is the lot, the lot boundaries, stuff like that, like where's the property line,
Anything that
where is the proposed building going to be?
anything that can be pointed to.
Right.
But anything that requires an answer, we are asking the public to please direct your questions to the chair or the vice chair, and they will be answered in the public hearing section, or bring your questions to the public hearing section.
Yep.
Because we will be limited on daylight,
Yep.
and we want to get in there, get the information the board needs to make an appropriate decision.
Right.
What was the proposed date?
November
The
9th.
9th.
I think all the questions should be directed to one person.
Yeah, they should be directed to the chair if he's
Yes.
there, the vice chair if he's
If he's
not.
not there.
Yep.
And
November 9th, and
that's
what
at all
time
site
is
walks, not just this
4:26
one.
is sunset.
For the
Sunset.
public.
So
And dusk is, hold on, what was it again? November?
Did you just say 4:26 is the sunset?
Sunset,
November-
that's
November
sunset,
9th.
not darkness.
Sunset is 4:26. Last light is 4:56.
So we should be okay at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
If we do 4 o'clock, we'll be fine.
Does that work with the board?
I'll try.
Okay.
For you,
Les?
the 9th at 4.
You said November 9th?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Okay.
Wow, that made me sad real fast.
I know,
Yeah, we
right?
can't-
I need a cookie.
We can't do anything on the
So
23rd. It's
then
Thanksgiving.
the public hearing would be on the 16th. Is that enough time? Okay. All right.
Should we maybe keep our agenda for that date small?
We are actually, that's part of what we were discussing, Terry and I, earlier today, as we were looking at, because we have a few that are more a butter involved, we'll put it that way, projects before the board, so we're trying to balance them so that we're seeing them alternatingly, so that you guys aren't
staggered.
stuck here till midnight.
I just
on
think
a
we should
night.
allot plenty of time for
That's what
everybody's
we're doing.
concerns to be
Yes.
heard. So
Yeah.
if we can keep other stuff off the agenda that night, I
It
think
may not be the entire, it may not be the only
Right.
thing,
Well,
but
worst
anything
case
with it
scenario,
will be
we'll,
simple.
we'll leave it open, and then we'll just have to recontinue it the next
I
meeting.
would say it's going to be left open anyways.
Well, we'll see.
Well, we're gonna, we're
we'll
also
see.
asking, and I say this for the public at home, anybody that has anything, if they feel they may not be able to make the public hearing, which again, we're notifying you is November 16th, and you want to comment, you're welcome to send a letter or an email to the planning department, and that will go to the board.
Yeah.
And we
And
ask that you
it's-
do that before the public hearing so that it can be read into comment into the record on the public hearing.
Correct.
We want everybody's voices heard. So you can send it via email, send it via snail mail, drop it by the office. So that's something we'll make sure is done. But yes, Mr. Vice Chair, we have been making sure that we're keeping things so that the other things that are on the agenda should be short-lived
Yeah.
items versus,
And with that one, the timing, the time allowance for will be enforced, because there will be a lot of
yes, the
Yeah.
procedural time allowance of each person is allowed to come up and speak for 5 minutes, and then if
after
time
everyone else
allots
has
and
spoken, then 3
and the
more
chair
minutes additional.
approves, they can, yes, get an additional 3. So have your things written out, be concise, clear. We prefer that you address the performance standards that you're concerned about. so that the board can look at that appropriately. And obviously, I'm speaking for the general public, not the board.
Iris, can you tell the general public where they can find the current performance standards that you provided us, just so they can review them as they're preparing their comments?
Absolutely. If you go online to government, you can find the land use ordinances there. When you go to the land use ordinance, it's not going to be the same on the computer as the page number I'm going to tell you right now, because for some reason when you click on it, I think because it shrinks it down, it doesn't do live page size. The actual book page number is page 116 in the land use ordinance. You'll be able to find those. Anybody who is having a hard time finding them or wishes to have a printout of them, particularly if they choose to have that when we do the site walk, is welcome to come into the office. I have multiple copies all printed up and ready for the public.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I have a question? You referenced the Stop and Go in Elliott. How many square feet is that building?
I don't have a number for comparison. My client may be able to provide one if he knows.
So that one is a 20.
You don't get to come up to the mic.
Sorry.
It's just so the people at home can hear you.
I'm Kevin Patel. I live in Dover, and I have 5 other stores in state of Maine and New Hampshire. So one in Elliott is 2664 for the square footage wise, but that location built like a 1986 where they did not have so many facilities in a store like a liquor and all. We just started to get liquor license over there, so it's really tight right now. Like I cannot provide what people wanted, like some grocery items and all basic needs I cannot provide. So if I'm building from the scratch, then I want to provide people what they needed. Like all the basic needs to be covered. Like if you want any small grocery, you don't want to drive like half an hour just to get a little grocery item. That's why we are proposing little higher, because we have a lot coverage which can provide us more square footage, and that's why we are proposing little more for the storage wise. And for the storage, they had a question about the storage for 1500 square feet. For the state liquor commission, they required any facilities has a liquor license has to have a lock area where nobody's allowed to go except the owner or the manager, because of the like a privacy of the liquor, and they not get like stolen or something, security of it. And they want like a lock that area, and that's why we are proposing 1500 square feet for all those products which is alcohol or something. We have to lock those in those room.
Okay.
To build off of Les's question, Mr. Patel, you said you have 5 stores. You gave us the square footage of the Elliott. Do you have an approximate square footage of your other 4?
Yes. So for the Raymond, Maine, we have one in Raymond, Maine, which is 3,400 square feetage.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have one which does not have a liquor, Cat and Nine Tail in York, which has a 3,500 square feetage. That does not have a liquor or like some of the license which needed. And even though 3,500 square feet, I am not able to provide grocery what people needed in the area. And as we know, on the Berwick Route 4, not like a major grocery store except the one over there. If somebody wants like a little grocery or little bite of sandwich or something, there is no place over that area which can provide like a little food items in the, like if somebody want like a lunch or dinner, there is nothing they can provide. So we are also proposing like a deli with the food items, prepared food too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along. New business, land use ordinance amendments.
I guess we're. Hey, Mike, you want to let him know if we're done with him?
I mean, technically we already were. We just ended up asking more questions because we found it complete. We scheduled the public hearing and the site walk.
Oh, sorry. Did we help you out?
Which did we say the public hearing was?
Public hearing is
16th.
going to be the 16th, November
Thank you.
16th. Yep.
Oh, no, I thought it was the 9th.
No, that's the site walk.
The sidewalk's the 9th, public hearing on the 16th.
Yes,
You guys,
correct.
Trying to be funny, Les.
Halloween is not till the 31st. We
Yeah.
got to quit clowning around.
Anyway, members of the board, thank you very much. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so you said land use ordinance. Now you're watching me lick my notebook clean, which is a weird statement, but it has a reason. So basically, gentlemen of the board, we have been asked to, actually, we've been asked to be better about this to begin with, but, so proposed land use ordinance changes. Really what we should be doing is as soon as we finish wrapping up one batch and it goes to the voters like we did in June, we should be working on the next round of any land use ordinances, any changes, proposals, updates, upgrades, rewording, clarification. So tonight, we knew it was going to be a kind of a busy meeting, so we didn't want to try and delve into it. What we did want to do is bring it up to the board, to the public, that this is the time when we're going to start focusing on bringing any land use ordinance changes. So if the public has anything they want to propose to the board, bring it before the board, informational items, send that email to planning. We'll run it all through the board. We'll run it through Hannah. We do have a deadline of, what was the first? I'll have the drop dead date, but I think it's the end of February.
That sounds about right.
Either the beginning or the end of February.
Yeah.
I think it might be the beginning of February, in order for us to meet our deadline to pass it to the select board so that we can make it on time rather than have it delayed another 6 months or a year. Because we have a presidential election coming up, we're not going to be doing anything during the presidential election. We're trying to stick to June elections for the town clerks and the customer service ladies' benefit, because ranked choice voting is very difficult on them processing, and we don't want to give them extra work during that election.
Yep.
So if anybody has anything to propose, this is the time we need to start thinking about doing it. So I advise you guys look through both. It's, from my understanding from the town manager, it's been some time since the subdivision regulations have been reviewed. I personally will be looking through the ordinances for how they pertain for clarity and enforcement, passing my suggestions along to SMPDC to review and compare to other towns, and then they'll present that to you guys. In the meantime, it would behoove the board to review those subdivision regulations, see what you like, don't like, what's clear, what's unclear, and perhaps look at that, and then talk to members of the public, see what everybody wants updated, changed, what we can do better as a town, what we can do to better achieve the town goals.
And I think, to piggyback on what you said, Irish, it isn't about what the board likes or dislikes. Our job is to carry out the town's business, and
Yes.
it's up to the voters. So I want to implore everybody who's listening from home or watching this on YouTube later on, be the change you want to see and help us. You know, we hear it a lot. We see it on social media, and everybody, you know, espousing their opinion. That's great, but your opinion, absent action, is just that. It's just an opinion. So I would encourage, if your vision is similar to mine and envision Berwick's and what you want our town to look like in 10 or 20 years, be proactive instead of reactive. And this is your opportunity to tell us what you want. I would encourage you to read the current policies and come up with some good recommendations in the form of a draft to make it easier for us to digest and incorporate if it is deemed something we want to incorporate. But this is a community effort. It isn't us imposing these rules and regulations on the townspeople. We want to hear from you. What do you want? What do you want our town to look like in 10, 15, 20 years? And I personally don't want to lose our small town charm. So let's all get to work and take some ownership in this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in furtherance of that, you know, I think it's just important for people to understand that, you know, our job as planning board members is to make sure that a project that comes before us meets the land use ordinance that you as the public voted on and put in place. So it's, you know, we can sit here and say, I like this project, I don't like this project. That really is irrelevant to what the land use ordinance says. And, you know, our job, our duty is to rule by what the land use ordinance says. So if the current land use ordinance says this is an allowed use, we have to vote on it. We have to vote yes on it. We can set conditions. That's really the only leeway we have, is setting conditions on things. But those conditions also have to be backed up by the land use ordinance and by performance standards. I think just, that was a very, that was a very good point you made, so I just wanted a little bit further on that.
And I would propose, and I'll throw the idea out there, just brainstorming, but I think there'd be a lot of value in us having a workshop and engaging with our Envision Berwick team, maybe in the town hall, and take questions and answers and talk with the people of this town on what they want in there. I think there'd be a lot of good to come out of that, and we will put out a document that I think is if not in the best interest of the town, at least a decent compromise.
So going further with that, we are actually due for our quarterly meeting with the Selectmen and Envision Berwick. So if we could start to get some communication and schedule a time with the Selectmen and Envision Berwick for our next quarterly meeting, that sometimes is annually or biannually, I will state.
Okay.
But
I'll see what I can do.
I will have, for the next meeting, I'll bring all those deadlines with me for.
Okay, thank you.
And the sooner we receive public
Input.
input, the better, so we have time
Then
to.
we can get some motion going. and-
Would it be appropriate for us to use the town hall to have such a meeting and
Absolutely.
invite people to come and have their opinions heard? My fear is, and this is what happened the last go-around, is we wait till the last minute and we kick the can down the road, and then every 2 weeks before the the thing's going through, everybody's very impassioned and has a great opinion, but the ship has sailed. So let's not miss this great opportunity.
Well, what
Get
we're-
everybody in a room talking and get those ideas down on paper, and let's have a quality product to give to the select board.
I don't know how that would work with a joint meeting with all three and the public. I'll talk
I'm
to
not
James
saying
about that.
maybe not
Maybe
all three.
two separate meetings.
But possibly.
Maybe two separate meetings.
If
public
we're
and then
doing
a
the draft,
workshop.
put us to task,
Mm-hmm.
get us in front of the townsfolk if they want to come and tell us what they think right looks like, and we can answer questions and take that constructive dialogue and get it to paper and come up with a good draft for the select board. I think that's win-win, and we're doing our due diligence.
My personal opinion, I want to schedule this with the Selectmen and Envision Berwick. I'm not sure how they would feel about the public asking questions at that, but I think definitely
Well, not
a public
at that.
workshop.
I'm saying
Yeah,
a
okay.
separate- a separate
My
altogether is what I'm
misunderstanding.
advocating for.
I thought you meant all together, like every
So how that would work,
I'm
so
gonna
basically we need, how this would work is we need public input,
Mhm.
and then we have our meetings, then we work on it, we schedule the public hearing, that's when we get more public input and iron out the details, and then we move to action.
Yes, and what we're
So-
going to do with the board's permission, of course, what we are going to do is start adding the land use ordinance amendments to every agenda. We'll drop it off if it's a busy agenda, or if the meeting runs over, it gets too late, you guys can always motion to just push it, table it till the next meeting. But we want to have it on here, like, literally every agenda,
Yeah,
because
we need to be talking about it
should be
frequent.
this. Here's the issue, as Patty, our town clerk, and I were discussing, that she brought to me, is it really should just be a continuous discussion. This should never be a one and done. The land use ordinance is a living, breathing document. There are, and might be a little mind blowing to people watching this to think about this, because they watch these meetings and they see the seven of you sitting up there. The seven of you are making decisions based on these ordinances that are voted on by the population, which is about 8,000 people. So you guys are not speaking for you. You're speaking for 8,000 of you. There's 8,000 voices that could be heard, and they should be heard. And because of that, because it's always living, breathing, changing, and because, let's be real, sometimes we put ordinances in that just either we outgrow them, or that it doesn't seem to fit anymore, or it needs more detail, or the vision has changed since it was first put in, or we put something in and we find that, we were doing it to restrict something, but it's not restricting it. It's the ordinance isn't working. We need to find a better way to make it restricted. All of these things, it's just life. It's how land use ordinances are supposed to be living, breathing documents that get modified by the populace they serve, so that the board can serve the populace that they serve.
So February is our deadline to have the draft, you said?
Yeah, I believe so for this next one. But again, anything
Just,
that
and I'm-
that we don't get onto it can always be pushed to another election because it's
Right.
never over.
My
That's something
concern
I
is
wanna
between
remind
now and February, we're coming right into the holiday season. And if we're not proactive in this, we're going to miss the mark.
That's
Well,
why it will be on the agenda.
That's why we're being
Every agenda.
proactive.
Right.
So would it be premature for us at this meeting to go ahead and set a date to hear the public's concerns and have a town hall?
So that is more of they have to come in and state stuff.
We haven't had anything from the public yet.
Yeah.
But we haven't
usually-
given them a forum to
Well, that's
bring
what-
that.
The
That's what I'm trying
forum
to say.
is they can come in with their concerns at any time
Yeah,
of
they have a
any time of
forum
the
every
year.
meeting.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, no, they can just go to the town hall. They can speak with
Monday
Terry
through
or
Thursday.
Irish, or
And
they
our
can
emails.
email Hannah.
But
they
speaking
can-
about what we have the ability to do, we have a public commentary at the beginning of this, we have a public
right,
commentary at
right,
the end.
that is true as
So-
well.
If somebody at the end of this meeting stands up and says, hey, I
have this
propose, I'd like to see
concern.
this land use ordinance tightened up,
Yep.
ABC,
Yep.
they have the
Basically-
forum. It's just whether or
basically-
not they understand that that's a
An
time that
option.
they can bring those types of things to us.
Right.
So
I just would like to be more available and approachable to our voters.
If
That's
I-
kind of what I'm opting is let's put it out there, and maybe we get great feedback, maybe we get no feedback, but
if I may,
Yeah,
that's
please.
why we put it on this agenda and why I made that kind of little speech was because I don't know if, hey, maybe you guys all got it right the last time and nobody cares. No, there's nothing else anybody wants to change, and if not, great. I highly doubt that because there's 8,000.
Well,
hey, don't give me that look.
It happens.
There's 8,000
There's
people.
been a few years that stuff
But-
is slow to move.
But just in case, we wanted to put it out there, and that's what I wanted to make people aware. So I think, honestly, my personal opinion, I think we should wait a couple weeks. We'll reiterate this at every meeting and every chance we get. I think maybe we should put a little something on the website that states that we're looking for any input. And then we'll see what we get, and then maybe once we see what the tides are doing, because maybe it's something we just add to an agenda as a public hearing, or maybe it's something bigger. If we get a whole bunch, I think we don't want to do a public hearing and then find out we got 50 people that want to talk to us. So I think we should wait a couple weeks, in my opinion, see what we get coming in, and if we have a whole bunch, we might have to just make it an entire, like, the bulk of a meeting.
Well, the public
And I think we
hearing
need
probably
to-
wouldn't be until January for this.
But-
We'd be ironing out everything that has been coming in, giving it direction, and then from there we'd be scheduling the public hearing. We just want to make sure that we have our public hearing, and then we have our action to vote on it as a board to give it to the selectmen by that time.
Where we need to have the public hearing, in our opinion, after discussing it with Patty, we need to have the public hearing at least one meeting prior to when you need to make that motion, because we want you guys to take that information from the public, have time to digest it, and make any changes you feel are
I
appropriate.
just don't want to end up in the same quandary we ended up in last go round where, and I feel we're kind of kicking the can down the road. We could act and we could schedule a meeting to hear concerns and get those concerns out there and draft a quality document. And I hear you, but I just don't want to be stuck in the same quandary we were in where we had what was, in my opinion, a less than great document, and it's a reflection on us, it's a reflection on our combined staff work, and we got to 0 hour and we were ready to put forth a less than great document. I don't want to be stuck in that same
Right.
quandary
So I
this
think
year.
what we're doing differently
Well,
this time is I
yeah.
think if we put a blurb on the website inviting people to submit their comments, hopefully specifically relating to specific things that they do not like in the land
What
use
we'll have to
ordinance.
do is we'll have to set a deadline for the public
That's-
information.
That's right.
We can only go so far before we have to say we have to deal with what we have, and it's going to be
And then
pushed to the
anything
next
else
time.
Hopefully,
gets
as
Yeah.
that
pushed to the
information
next
comes in, we'll address it each meeting.
Right.
Let's just make
As-
sure we're availing ourselves to the townspeople.
All
I
I'm-
want
all
them to
I'm
know
going
that
to
we
say
want to
is-
hear their opinions.
I
I
gave
think
my
that we're
opinion,
talking
that's
a
up
lot
to the
about
board.
the cart without
I'm
a
backing
horse.
you.
Yeah.
We do make ourselves available, and we, I think putting that invitation on the website, hopefully people watch the meetings and
Right,
see the
I think
website.
Terry, Terry, you made a good point. That's what I was going to get to, was that, You know, we need a vehicle to get to the townspeople and say, you know, here's a place to dump some information. If you have an issue, you want to talk to us, come to the meeting, speak at the public commentary, drop
Or
a comment
submit
on the
anytime.
website. That's the vehicle that we're missing, is how do we get that message out to the townspeople?
I hate myself right now, but I'm going to say it in my out loud voice.
You're going to give everyone your cell phone number?
Oh, hell to the no. I ain't giving you my number. No, I'm kidding. So the one thing I always joke about is I would not have taken this job if I knew I had to make them damn videos. But that being said, apparently a lot of people watch those damn videos. So if you guys would like, I will make a video stating that these are the ways to contact the planning board. Please
Land
do
use
this.
amendments. And just
I'm
have
going
a
to put on
discussion
makeup
about that.
first, though. Okay,
We could
guys.
put
Yeah,
a
I
little
think that's a
something, we
great
could
idea.
also
Yep.
put a little bulletin on the bulletin board inside the town hall.
We'll find ways to advertise it for the board, but Mr. Vice Chair, as to your point, that is not a decision I make. That's a decision that you guys as a board make
I'm
as
willing
to
to
the
put
when.
myself to task and put myself before the townspeople to hear their concerns and ensure that we get a good draft. So we're either, and I know it sounds crude, but we talk a lot. Let's put up or shut up. Let's avail ourselves to the town people. Let's put a quality document together with their input. Let's avail ourselves to them in a meaningful way. That's an opinion.
But we need, it goes back to the issue of, we need to have the town input.
Correct.
To put a document together.
100%.
So right now, we have nothing.
Make it a dedicated meeting.
Right. And how I've seen it in years past is if we have no input, we don't have any action.
We could start rumors in the town.
There's already enough of
I
those.
think you already did. You started the rumor I'm giving out my cell phone number.
All right.
I got something to say to this. I agree with what you're saying. We need input from the town. Pat's standing there, Hannah's sitting there. My wife and I have been working on the comp plan for how long? This past year? With
long
very little or any input from the townspeople. Pat has. It's been out there requested. Members come onto the comp plan group, and then they disappear. It's supposed to be input from the public. We need input from the public for the ordinances as well, or you're not going to have a quality product.
Right.
Am I allowed to speak now?
Nope, not yet. Thank you.
Okay. I'll wait.
Almost.
No, wait.
So, Jerry, for the comp plan, you said? You need that for the comp plan,
Yes.
too?
Yep.
I mean,
We're looking for input.
unscheduled at the moment, but in the coming months, there will be a formal public session for the comp plan.
Right.
But-
Okay, wait a minute. I have a
Exactly what-
question, because if I'm going to be stuck doing a damn video, I want to make it as effective as possible for the townspeople. So who do they contact for stuff about the comp plan? Send that to planning, too?
Me,
Hannah.
James.
So they
Yep.
can send
Or
all
James.
of their stuff to any one of us four.
Yes.
The three of us and James.
James is heading it up, and Hannah's on there, my wife is on there. I listen to it because I'm sitting there in the house.
So if they send their public comments for comp plan and or ordinance amendments to any of us four, we'll direct it to the, okay. I want to make sure that I if I'm going to put it out there, we might as well hit all the birds in the bush with the one, guys, I'm running out of coffee here, so I'm running out of steam.
All right.
I'm done.
Okay. And that's
Anything
all I
else
had to
about
say
land
about
use
that.
ordinance amendments?
This is about land use ordinance.
This is, it's not a public comment part for
Okay.
this. This is just for us in new business.
All right.
So next is the public comment. This is open to the public for non-agenda items. Hey,
Okay. I love the idea of having the meeting.
Add name and address first.
Introduce
Oh,
yourself.
my name is Pat Bover. I'm at 6 Country Lane. I really like the idea that Bill proposed about having the planning board have a workshop with Envision Berwick and the townspeople, because all of your ideas about putting things on a video and putting things on the town website, we need to reach out to more people than that. I think it's hard for us because we all know we don't have we don't have a newspaper, we don't have that kind of thing. What we have is we have the Envision Berwick newspaper that they put out.
Oh, that's right, the newsletter.
This information should definitely get in there because, and it should go online, it should go on Facebook, it should go on all those social media things that people your age do.
That's the plan.
And, you know, and busy people can just look at it and make sure that people come in. I appreciate very much. I think it's very important, like Phil said, to get started on this now and not push this off a week and a week and a week. Because in another week and a week and a week, it's Thanksgiving and it's Christmas, and then it's people are supposed to be thinking about stuff like that over then. No. Hopefully you can catch them before that happens, and then they can be thinking about those things, maybe solidify them in January. And then I know from my last experience that having the public hearing, you have a public hearing, but it isn't really an opportunity for any kind of change to what's put forward. There isn't enough time to make changes and make them better, really, because you only have a week before the deadline date. You know, it's too compressed. You need more time, and I love the idea of having it kind of, you know, something that keeps going. But we already know we have one item that, you know, we already know that there are some items that should be coming up. Why not tell the townspeople, we already have, you know, questions on this topic, this topic, this topic. How to get them interested is if, you know, as if you already have people that are questioning and want to do possible changes. You know, to ask somebody with, as you well know, with a bunch of kids and activities and jobs, you know, hey, what do you think about the planning board land use ordinance? I mean, it's like, yes, way down here. You know, it's not on the agenda. If you tell them some items that you already are aware of and say, we want to be, these people have already brought these things up. Let's talk about those things, whether it's changing some of the, you know, R1, R2 types of zoning, or if it's clarifying a land use ordinance that isn't specific enough. But those things have already come up, and you can already bring those up to the townspeople, let them know that those are some of the topics that are going to be discussed, and if they have any more things that people are grumbling about and would like to see changed, that's the opportunity. But to just open it up, and then you definitely don't want to tell people, well, if you can draft something. I mean, no. It's not up to an individual in town to draft something.
I agree.
You know, they need to bring the ideas, the issues, and whatever, and then work on those. And then it's up to, I don't know who does the drafting, but it's not the individuals, and you will scare people away if they think they have to draft them. You know, people are just going to go, I can't draft, you know, legal, something, you know. No, it just spoils the whole thing. It's just got to be a conversation about things that are coming up that people are going, this just doesn't feel right. You know, we need more information about farmland. You know, we need more information about, you know, our limits of growth. We need more decision about building permits. You know, and whatever it is, I think you guys need to kind of set the agenda, knowing what people are concerned about a little bit from what you've heard. And that way you get some people who are interested. You get a conversation going, so maybe they can talk about it at the game.
If I may, Pat, are you saying that, like, when we do land use ordinances on the agenda, you'd like to see like land use ordinances issues proposed include parking, playgrounds, whatever, or are you just saying in general when we're talking? I'm trying to clarify what you said.
I'm not sure. This is all new to me.
Just
I'm just thinking about it off the top of my head, too.
It's going to be, for starters, you're right. I 100% agree that we need to not be, as the board said, crunched and that's why we're going to keep it as a regular agenda item, like
And what
to
does
infinity.
what does it mean that you're going to put it on the agenda? You
So,
know,
it goes on the agenda for
to find the
discussion.
planning board agenda.
Do you have it? Is
Oh,
that what
yeah.
you're saying?
Well, it certainly isn't out there.
No, it's
No, I have
online.
to search for it online, and it takes me at least five
You go-
attempts to find it.
It's
And-
always
It's
directly
posted
in the
in the
same
lobby,
spot, and it's
and
posted
it's-
in the lobby.
Right. Well, how many people have an opportunity
It's
to run
online.
to the library? Oh,
Uh,
yeah,
under
I
the
know it's
planning.
online.
Yeah.
I find it online.
Yeah.
But you have to know how to find it. Most people don't know
We
how
could
to
also
find
have
it.
copies printed on and have them on that desk.
Yes, but what I'm asking is,
And maybe
is,
in the
is she
Envision Berwick
asking that-
Quarterly. In any kind of thing on
So the agenda is a
No.
ever-evolving thing. So
Oh, I
we,
understand.
up until 2 weeks before the meeting is usually when we
I-
have all the agenda items. So at that point, yes, we could post it. We post it online once we have it ironed out, and then that's basically all we're required to do.
But again, sometimes, like Beaver Dam Campground was on the agenda right up until, 3 o'clock this afternoon when they asked to be
But
tabled.
I'm talking about the land use ordinance. It's not necessarily
but
your business.
what we're saying
you
is
know.
the agendas to speak to your point of the agendas being posted and shared easily, because it's such a constantly changing, that's not necessarily
Right, but
the
we're
easiest way.
I was talking about just the land use part of it. I mean, not that you want a bunch of agendas. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
if you can just say that the topic for this month or this week is going to be this, and this. You
Well,
know,
it will be
I don't
it
know,
will
I'm
be
just throwing
guided.
ideas.
No, I appreciate the ideas, but it will be guided by whatever. And you did throw out a couple of really good ones for advertising it that I wrote down that I'm going to steal from your speech. But until we get some guidance from the public on what they want,
Yeah. Once we get
and
some
that's-
input, then we
But
can
I
add it
think
to the
you already
agenda.
have some input already from people. I feel like I've already given some input.
I think that's the common thing, is we're not asking anyone to draft anything. All we're asking people to do is come up and say, hey, and unfortunately what happens is, from what I've seen, I've been coming to the planning board for 10 years, and I've been on the planning board for 6 months now, is that when a project gets proposed in your backyard, then you look at the land use ordinance and you say, I don't like this, I want to make changes.
Of course.
So we're just humans. We're just people living our lives too, right? So we're not like, scrolling around the land use ordinance to see what we
No,
can
but
fix.
that is your job. You are
No, it's not.
planners. You don't just deal with what comes in front of you. You are not just approval. You are also responsible for planning
that
what
would
you
actually
want
be
the town to
Hannah's
look
job.
like.
I'm not sure that's true.
Hannah's the planner.
SMPDC.
Yeah. SMPDC. They're only.
Now, that's not to say, Pat, if we
They
see
should be
something
involved,
that we
but-
think should be changed, it's not to say that we can't present it.
The issue is our hands are tied. If it's in the land use ordinance, we can condition things,
I
and
understand.
we can mold planning and mold our vision that way to an extent with conditions, and we are empowered to do that. But really, our hands are tied, and this is why we're trying to implore the public to be part of this process and help us develop a land use ordinance that is their vision.
understand that.
I think I see the disconnect here, and I think what they're trying to get at, and what I was trying to get at, I think more clearly stated is, should they be reviewing the land use ordinance as citizens, of residents of the town, and suggesting changes? Absolutely. But when they sit there, they switch into an administrative role. But that administrative role is not to the level that the town planner
Oh,
has.
no, I didn't mean that.
So-
I guess I meant.
Okay.
I guess I
See,
meant
that's where
right,
the
no, of
sorry.
course not.
Yeah,
I guess
okay.
I meant that in the past, how do you think the land use ordinance got to be what it is?
Oh, yes. I get that.
Workshops. from
Terry's
the
gonna
planning
ask
You
board.
have to talk to the microphone. Sorry.
Microphone. Pat, you're on the spot.
Thought I was done. I just feel, that,
I sucked you back in, sorry.
The planning board in the past has taken other time besides the 2 meetings per month, which I know that's what you've signed up for, But, that's the time that you spend looking over the ordinance and planning and updating it. And if that isn't what the planning board's job is, then I don't know how you got that big pile in front of you right now, because I know that my husband has worked on that many, many nights more than just the planning board nights. It is the obligation of the planning board to do some planning. It doesn't help for our town planner, who we only hire for, I don't know, a little bit. The planning board does have some obligation to plan, not just to approve projects that come in front of it.
I think I know what you're saying. Based on the complaints and concerns you hear over the course of the various projects, they should be looking at those items that are frequently brought up. Is that what you mean? The ones that are...
Partly that, or if they know, for example, that a lot of trouble is... I'm making this up. Totally making this up, because I don't come to your meetings very much. If you know that, like you want growth in R2 to do this or R3 to do this, if you're finding that, you're getting a lot of squawking from people because of the way, it is at this certain place in town, they don't like the way that growth is happening, well, it's a perfect opportunity as a board to look at rezoning some of the, like you said, the things that were put in 20 or 30 years ago when there were 4,000 people in this town. They were fine for then, but, they need some beefing up now. They're not, they need extra help. And they need to change because it is a vibrant thing. And I know that means more time for you guys. And I understand that you only have a certain amount of time. I know that. I've been there.
Thank you
your
for helping.
age, but somebody's got to do it, and if you're signing up for the job.
Thank you for helping me clarify what you were meaning.
And
I wanted to be
and
clear.
I'm not criticizing you guys. I understand exactly where you're coming from. Somehow, I like the idea of trying to get the people to come to you, but let's remember how busy they all are too. So. I think it has to be a variety of things. It can't just be a one-size-fits-all. Talking to people at all the events that you guys go to, and hearing, looking at. I never go on the Envision Berwick. I don't go on Facebook. I don't go on any of that. But there's certainly stuff there that you can see people complaining about, not necessarily want to hear about, but but you can still tell if there's some issues, and so those are things that maybe we can start with.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Bover, I want to say, and for the record, you come in regularly, and you are impassioned, you're engaged, and your advocacy and your passion for this town are evident, and your husband's contributions as well. So thank you for being that model citizen that comes in here and does this. I mean that from my heart. Thank you for your passion for our town.
But unfortunately, most of the public can't do it.
That's
I'm retired.
That's why we want them to email us. Email us, write us letters so we can still hear from them even though they can't be
They
here.
have to know to do that.
And Pat,
That's
if you
what we're
have
working
any,
on.
you said you know of comments, please send them over to us so we can start.
Yep.
Okay?
Sure. Yep.
All right. Hi, this is Mary Ignatiadis at 23 Overlook Drive.
What was your last name? Sorry, honey.
I, G, N as in Nancy, A, T as in Tom, I, A, D as in Davis, I, S as in Sam. I do that a lot.
That's the woman that's done that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. So I did not hear an opportunity to give comment on the gas station.
Because we haven't gotten there
There's
yet.
not one yet? Okay, that's coming tonight.
That is November 16th.
Okay.
Yes, that's at the public hearing, November 16th.
So there's nothing that can be.
No,
Can I say
right
something
now,
about the land use
so right
ordinance
now
then?
with they gave us their information,
Yep.
and we just made sure that the application was filled out
And that's
properly,
it. Okay.
and that's it. So from there, we scheduled the site walk and the public hearing. At the public hearing is where we get all the public comment, and that's where we'll listen to everyone and make actions.
Great. Yeah. Well, speaking
Yeah.
as a member of Envision Berwick, not for Envision Berwick, but I can say that I'm excited to work with you on engaging the townspeople in that sort of open space plan to guide your land use ordinance. But I would also say the land use ordinance does leave a lot of room for you to interpret what is in the best interest of the town in ambiguous situations. So I would not say necessarily that your hands are tied. I would say that you have broad power, and that the citizens of Berwick support you and are like, we have your back, and so we want you to use that and use your best judgment, because we trust your judgment, and that's why you're there. So thank you so much. I just also want to recognize that because I know it's not just these really long nights that you put in. I know it's all of the time that goes into reading, all of the paperwork that you put in, an extraordinary amount of work to be on the planning board. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
November 16th. Okay, put it in your calendar.
Well, hopefully she'll come to the site walk.
Oh, yes.
Right?
And don't forget the site walk.
Okay. No more public comment. So informational items.
I got one.
You got one? All right, Jeremy, come on in.
I just want to say thanks, Jeremy Caston, 310 Blackberry Hill Road. I know we all want to go home. Two things. I think we need a victory. I think your town needs a victory. I think people have been grumbling and frustrated, and I do not need to repeat any, oh, this is great, we should have these meetings, of course. But people are frustrated because they have seen consistently when they put forward their frustrations, nothing happens. And so it is time, like Pat said about planning, it's time for us to make something happen where we can point to something and say, look, we did something. We protected those turtles. We did the thing over here. Your backyard didn't get ruined, whatever it is. And yes, of course it happens that when somebody's road gets ruined or their view or their experience living in Berwick, that's when they're going to show up. It would be very weird for people to spend a lot of their energy on, except if you're, some of us, but most people are not going to expend themselves, like you said, going through the land use ordinance, trying to figure out where we messed up. But it is really important that we all recognize that Berwick has been sort of marked as a place where we do get to be taken advantage of because we haven't done a great job of protecting ourselves. And it's time to stop. And it's time to say to developers and to anybody who's being opportunistic and not looking at this as a moment to intelligently engage with the tenor of what the town wants. Anybody who's looking for a loophole. That we're not going to, whether you guys or you guys can allow it, the people aren't going to let it happen anymore. There's going to be more and more engagement, and it's great that we're going to have these meetings and stuff, but I'm telling you, people are fed up, and I think it will not be difficult to get people more and more to show up and make their voices heard. And now we sort of have to figure out what this process is for once their voices are heard. How can we affect a change once somebody's processing ruining your backyard or, killing your turtles or whatever the thing is? So we need a victory. And I hope that we can all come together and figure that out because I think that should be the goal now. That's all. Thank you for everything you do. Big long meeting and a lot's going on, but I recognize how much work it is, and I'm sure it's emotionally exhausting too. I know from my standpoint it is. So I can only imagine from you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
You
Jeremy.
have something else? You said two things.
I mean, I sort of got it.
I mean, you can go if you want.
The only other thing is,
you looked ready to go.
It is. I do think that we need to hold people's feet to the fire. We need to say to developers, yes, we want this to happen, but we are allowed to define that. And they can't find loopholes in our paperwork and then take advantage of us. It doesn't happen in Elliott. It doesn't happen in Kittery. It's, towns that are protected by money have standards, and developers are scared of that. But we can't be scared of them. I submitted a bunch of signatures. I'm not going to speak to the specific issues that it speaks to, but I will say, it was truly the least that I could do because it was just a thing that went out over email. But I think, I appreciate you taking a moment to look at it and it being entered into the record or whatever the procedure is from here. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And thanks for your video help.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any more informational items?
One thing I'll say, just
Okay, Hannah?
to maybe wrap up this whole conversation we've had, I think this whole conversation is a very good plug for the comp plan. The whole entire point of the comprehensive plan is to create and determine what the vision for the town is for the next 10 years. And we can't do that without input from the town. We can't do that without input from the planning board, the select board, Envision Berwick. Jeremy has been very involved, so thank you to Jeremy. But we need more public involvement in that. We will be having a public input session in the new year. I don't know exactly when, but that is the public input session is one thing, but the comp plan as a whole is really where we want to put the effort into ordinance changes. The comp plan will end up with a full list of goals for the town, policies and strategies on how to implement those changes, and that will then be reflected in a whole overhaul of the ordinance. That's where a good point of effort should be put for ordinance changes. Not to say that a change year to year is a bad thing at all, but doing a little thing here and there and here and there will be less effective than looking at the ordinance as a whole.
For the people at home or the people not that involved in municipalities and governmental work, shortest version of this ever. Comp plan is what guides the land use ordinance. Land use ordinance is what guides the planning board in their decisions that they have to make and what they're allowed to require. So the comp plan is the basis for the land use ordinances. So the more involvement in the comp plan, the better the land use ordinances, the better the board can serve the populace. But we need people. We need the public. The government works for the people, not the other way around. So, but we need the people to work by telling us what they want.
Okay.
I'm almost out of coffee and I want to go home.
I'm out of coffee.
I'm sorry.
Bill's up.
If there are no further items for discussion this evening from the esteemed Burgess Meeting Room in the depths of the Berwick Town Hall, I would make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Gunshot.
I know. I feel like I